Hi, this is Robert Clinkenbeard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. We're going to take 20 minutes of your life to deliver some amazing content from accomplished leaders and business owners to provide you with some value to help you scale your business, become a better leader, and push yourself out of your comfort zone into something which is going to stretch you. We really hope you enjoy these shows, and we really encourage you to like and share with your friends and network, which is only going to help us get a wider audience and improve our industry. I'm super excited to announce that in 2023, we're going to be announcing new partnerships, digital courses, some rebranding, and your opportunity to be coached by one of our many industry leaders, experts, or coaches. Cheers, everyone. Hi, this is Robert Clinkenbeard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. I'm really happy to be welcoming Frank Ross. Frank and I have known each other for a number of years. He is a huge advocate for the industry. There's so many people know you, Frank. Frank, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Robert. It's great to be here.
Yeah, this is a redo, listener. We had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and for some reason the recording did not stick. So Frank is gracious enough to be back on the podcast this morning. So thank you again, Frank.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's great stuff.
So Frank, tell the listeners, I mean, you didn't necessarily just, go in with a clear path into the green industry back in the day. Tell our listeners a little bit about your background, please.
Well, most people my age have a long, varied background, and I'm no different. I'm a North Carolina boy at heart. Grew up there, went to boarding school in the mountains of North Carolina, undergraduate at North Carolina State, graduate school at the University of North Carolina, and was interviewing following graduate school with a company up in Connecticut, and met a fellow on an airplane, and we got imbibed with a bottle of good scotch and a lot of gin rum.
Nice.
Yeah. But long story short, he said, don't take a job with anybody until you come back and talk to me. And I did. This was a fellow by the name of Emil Fales. And he had a firm by the name of FMI, Fales Management Institute, out of Raleigh, who now, interestingly enough, is probably the largest consulting firm for the construction industry in the world, internationally. But in any event, back in those days, it was just Emil, who was, he's my mentor, really. And it was he and 5 other people. And he was, his business was being a consultant to the construction industry in financial management. And I had explained to him that I knew nothing about construction and I knew nothing about finance. I mean, my world was in engineering and psychology. And he said, don't worry about that. We'll teach you. And so I went through a grueling 6-7 month training program to start my employment with the firm, and stood for the CPA exam, which I had to pass if I were going to be a consultant with Fales. And the rest is history. That was 1968. And here we are in 2023, and we're still going hot and strong.
That's awesome.
In 1973, got married and relocated from Raleigh to Chicago, and started our current firm, which is Ross Payne and Associates. And we've been there ever since. And we've had a fantastic ride. We've had the privilege of knowing and working with some of the great bastions of the green industry. We were from the get-go involved in creating estimating programs and pricing programs and budgeting and cash flow programs, to help contractors be able to navigate the waters of construction. And we've stayed the path. The persons with whom we've been fortunate enough to work with have stayed the path, and it's been a great ride ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, the three things you just mentioned there, the budgeting, the pricing, the cash flow, are all three things that, in my experience, most business owners, especially landscape companies, tend to shy away from. They're great at their trade, they're great at, knowing operations, but they stay away from the pricing aspect. So, I mean, you've probably been also a great asset to them, just to get into make sense of those numbers.
Well, thank you for that. Dr. Fales, my mentor, said, the average level of education in the construction industry, now this is back in the 60s and early 70s, the average level of education in the construction industry is probably 10th grade. And, most contractors are really, really good at producing work. They're really, really good at selling work. They're really, really good at attracting good people to come to their businesses. But where they have a misery is the financial side. And they've never been exposed to it insofar as their education was concerned. Even if they had gone through college and graduate school and so forth, it's like my dad told me way back when. He said, look, a college education, you can put a value on it, and it's worth your first month's salary. After that, you got to prove yourself. Mm-hmm. And if a contractor does not have a grasp of financial management, chances are pretty good that they could become a statistic. The Small Business Administration lists the most risky businesses in the small business aura. Retail is number one, restaurants is number two, and construction is number three. And even in the landscape industry, I would tell you, Robert, right now, that the average level of profitability in the landscape industry, and this is a statistic from like 2017, but 2017, if you remember, was a pretty good year. Mm-hmm. The average level of profitability in the landscape industry was like 1/2%. That's scary.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's really.
Why are they even in business? You're dealing with headaches every day. You're dealing with employee issues. You're dealing with all the multiple things of owning a business, and you're not making any money.
Yeah, you aren't making any business, and you're working for wages. Basically, you're a craftsman and you're working for wages. And if that's your love, then God bless you. But if you want to try to build a company into something that is greater than just the self-fulfilling prophecy of, providing independence and a paycheck, then you've got to have the building blocks of financial management in your formula. It doesn't have to take over, but it definitely has to be in there.
Yeah. And you touched on something, and you talked about having a mentor, and there's probably hundreds of different examples you learned as you're going through your mentorship. You were under the wings of a great mentor. But I think that's just something that I firmly believe on, is that whether you have a degree or not, it's good to surround yourself with people who have that expertise, whether it be financial management, whether it be some type of operations or selling or marketing or something. But it's just good to be around other experts so you could tap into their advice. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, there's an edict that we practice in our firm as it was growing. I always wanted to hire people that were smarter than me, because I knew that was going to be the avenue for success. I'm not all that smart, but as long as I was able to attract good, solid people that had energy and fire in their belly, I knew that we were going to be a success. And we've had the good fortune over time, since the early 70s, to have bred some of the great stalwarts in the consulting industry for contractors. And, that's kind of a mark of pride. So, but yeah, in the construction world, with all of the variables, weather, people, general contractors, bankers, it's a hard path. And to navigate that path successfully and to be able to make the kind of profit returns that we all target, you've got to do that, not only with your own education, but with people on your team that are really focused to doing and providing the best that they possibly can.
Yeah.
So that would be a measure of success that I would suggest for all of your listeners, that, hey, don't be afraid to make that hire of a smart person that can fill a need in your organization. It will come back to you in significant dividends down the road.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And whether it's a hire, whether it's using some type of a fractional resource, I think there's so many people out there now, especially during COVID. A lot of people have moved into that fractional environment, and that's actually one of the topics I'm going to be presenting on at our thought leader retreat down in Florida in July. And just there's so many other resources out there to help build such a great company. And whether you're looking to just have an exit at some point, whether you're just trying to improve your profitability, don't rely on yourself being that expert. You can't be an expert in everything.
That's right. And I'm testimony to that.
That's funny. So, Frank, you've obviously been probably involved with a lot of big green industry companies for probably many, many years. I think a lot of people potentially feel intimidated that, here's somebody in who's a guru in the industry, and they're hesitant about opening up their books just to sort of see what they uncover. They're embarrassed maybe, or maybe they're putting things to the business. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest hesitations. How do you handle that type of situation?
Most of us play our hands very close to our chests. And as a consultant, I've oftentimes had the experience that walking into a company, it's very, very hard to get the owner and the top management of that company to truly open up. Because, it could be for a series of reasons, not the least of which is, hey, I'm a little bit embarrassed about our performance. We work really, really hard in this business, and we just are not, as you had said earlier, we just are not making the kind of return that would be worth the risk. So, I would heartily encourage, whether it's in bringing in a consultant as an advisor, or bringing in your banker with whom you have strong relationships, your insurance company, your attorney, your accountant. I would definitely reach out to anybody with whom you feel like that can bring value to the table. Reach out to them, divulge where your concerns may rest, and ask for their advice. You may not take it. In looking back over all of the advice that we've given over time, I would tell you that, people will probably take maybe 20% of it. But what they do, I have found, is they take the input, process it, and then take actions and make decisions that may not be exactly the advice that you'd heard, but a solution has been derived that works best for you. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And you actually touched on a interesting point. It's something that we used to do. And I suppose I don't understand why a lot of other companies don't do this, is almost like having a little board of advisors around them. We make some key decisions around growth in the company. Maybe that we're looking at an acquisition. So why not bring in your team of advisors? And we used to bring in, as you say, our banker, because they should be aware of our growth plans. Your insurance company, we used to bring in our consultant. So just bring that team in towards the end of the year, present our strategic plan for the following year. So they were able to poke at it, challenge it, but then once we're all aligned, then they're helping us push, they're promoting that, they're all on the same page, they're helping us achieve that strategic plan.
Absolutely. Yeah. And everybody comes from a different walk of life, and everybody's had their own list of experiences. And a successful business person, if they are able to tap into all of that experience and then reprocess it and use it for their own purposes, there is not a thing in this world that can be better than that.
Yeah, 100%. Especially with, you're obviously involved in, the M&A market. You're seeing a lot of companies selling, buying, and unfortunately, I've been involved a little bit myself recently, and I've seen a lot more companies almost just close their doors because either not necessarily just landscape companies, but in all different contractor trades where they don't know the process, or they're just tired and fed up, and they're dealing with all these employee issues, and then just close their doors. I'm a firm believer on coming up with some type of an exit plan, whether it's 3 years, 5 years out, and in building that team around them to help them on that roadmap achieve all the different milestones. Talk to me about your experience there.
Okay. I'm involved with another company by the name of 3 Point Group, and we provide exit strategies for companies within the green industry space. And I would tell you that there's never a reason why you would just close your doors. There's value there. There's value in the hard assets that you have. There's value in the revenue stream that you have. And don't look at those values lightly, because there is always going to be someone interested. I don't care how successful you are or not. But there is value in your balance sheet. There's value in those hard assets. There's value in that revenue stream that could make a real difference. If you wanted to exit because of just sheer frustration, you haven't been able to make it happen, even then, you'll be surprised as to how much value is there that can be harvested. So by all means, reach out to those persons, do a little investigation, find out those persons that have experience in the green industry exit strategy business, and there are many, some good, some questionable, but and feed on those resources. Do not give up. Always, pride yourself in the company that you built, and know full well that it has a hidden value that you can harvest, when it comes appropriate time to do so.
No, I agree 100%. And, even a short-term solution being, and I've helped a few companies with this where, yes, the owner might be tired because they've been working 60, 70 hours a week, but, why not find a good operator and train that person up so that they could, put some of the weight on their shoulders.
For
And
sure.
that's inevitably going to help the value of the company as well. If they have some type of right-hand person to help
For sure. Yeah.
run the business, then you could take a step back and then you're in a lot better position.
That's the hardest thing for all of us to do as we're growing, is to make that first really significant hire. All of us started out, and as I'd indicated before, we were good in selling work, we were good in producing work, we were a Pied Piper in attracting good people that can produce the work. We may have had some issues insofar as the financial side of the business is concerned, but even so, if we are still running the business ourselves as an entrepreneur, we can probably do somewhere in the $750,000 to $2 million worth of volume. And we can do that quite profitably because we're doing it all. And, to your point, Robert, that's that 60, 70 hour a week individual that is absolutely, quote, married to the business. What that person needs to do if they're going to take the next step in the growth cycle is they need to make a significant hire. It's either going to be somebody that is going to take the sales side off your shoulders, or it's going to be somebody that is going to take the production side off your shoulders, or it's going to be somebody that is going to take the HR side off your shoulders. And that's where most of us are reluctant, and we just can't take that step. And that's where the frustration then begins to grow and magnify. I encourage all companies that are in that growth mode, don't be afraid to make that first hire, to split the responsibilities that you've been carrying all these many years. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to work less than 60 or 70 hours a week, but it does say that you have the opportunity to share those responsibilities, and by so doing, the company can grow and continue to prosper.
Yeah, I agree. And there'll be that transition period where you're training that person up, but hopefully that will, in the long term, come to reduced hours. But I think part of that process as well is goes back to the budgeting.
Yeah.
If you're making a significant hire, then you obviously need to make sure the numbers work, and maybe this is adjustments needed by help of yourself or somebody else, just to make sure the numbers work in bringing somebody on.
One of the interesting things, let's take a typical green industry firm, and if your pricing in the marketplace is competitive, then when you think about making that significant hire, and let's say that significant hire, I'm use round numbers because I have 10 fingers and 10 toes, and it's easier for me to do that. Let's say you make a significant hire and it's $100,000 a year person. With the correct pricing strategy and the market penetration that you already have, your revenue requirement to pay for that $100,000 a year person is probably about $350,000 worth of additional growth. Now, if you put it in those terms, and you're a company that currently is doing $1 million worth of work, and you find a good quality individual that can help you in either the sales side or the production side, either one is going to allow opportunity for growth. And you say, hey, if I hire a $100,000 a year person, my break-even point on that person is another $350,000 worth of volume. That's not so bad. Mm-hmm. Maybe, or it may scare the hell out of you. But at least you have the understanding is if I do this, what is the impact on my business that I have to respond with either revenue or efficiencies or whatever it might be. Give me the result of a decision that I'm about ready to make before I make it. And that's the planning process that you were just mentioning. And it's understanding how you can make that planning process swivel around and provide you with immensely valuable information such that you can make the right decision more often than not.
No, I love that. I love that. And as you say, it could be a mixture of additional revenue or some efficiencies. So, but just having some type of a direction, some type of a goal.
Absolutely.
I think is key right there. So, the last 2 years have been really challenging with supply chain issues, COVID, labor market being challenging. That surely has made the importance of pricing, updating, budgeting, like even more important than ever.
Absolutely. And of course, I'm the financial guy, so I want to make sure that we never lose sight of the numbers. And I would encourage anybody that is in business, don't take the numbers idly. Pay attention to them. Have financial sessions on a weekly basis. I know that for many of us, oh my God, it gives me a headache to look at the numbers on an annual basis. And you want me to look at the numbers on a weekly basis? Yeah. I want you to look at accounts receivable. I want you to look at collections. I want you to look at payables. I want you to look at the payroll. I want you to understand the efficiencies of job efficiency and how effectively we're using that resource. And our most valuable resource is our payroll. We need to be north of 85% billable with every person that we have on our payroll that is producing revenue. How do I measure that? How do I make sure that I hold back on the overtime? Because overtime is a measure of inefficiency. So if my billing rate of a 50-hour work week for one of my employees, if I'm only billing 40 hours out of those 50, those additional 10 hours of inefficiency are paid at an overtime rate. So and that's just one small example of what financial management can do if it's measured on a short-term basis. And I'm not saying, you pour over the balance sheet. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I feel like the balance sheet is probably one of our most important documents. I will tell you that I probably know 2% of the industry that knows how to read a balance sheet.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm not going to put that pressure on anybody. Don't worry about that. Worry about the things that you can control. Worry about how much revenue is in the pipeline. Worry about how efficient our labor is. Worry about the margins that we're able to price into jobs. Control that overhead spend. And leave it at that. Just those 4 things. Just leave it at that. And if you focus on those 4 things and do it on a weekly basis, life is going to be good. Because now you can make small adjustments in the navigation of the waters that we've spoken to here, multiple times. The variableness and the risk of construction and why it's one of the more risky industries that's out there. It's risky because we don't pay attention to the numbers.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Look at the numbers, embrace the numbers. Find somebody to help you with the numbers.
Right.
100%. So there's so many different software solutions available now to contractors. How has that changed the way people look at numbers, the way people look at job costing, how quick they are able to adapt to changing circumstances?
We've in the 50 odd years that I've been in this business, all of us have been looking for the panacea of the management information system that we can use in our businesses that will be the cat's meow. The system that starts with how we track revenues, how we estimate jobs, how we price those jobs, how we then track those jobs in the field and understand as the job is in progress, are we tracking positively to the way that we sold the job, the way that we estimated it, or is a flare going to go up so that I can make adjustments in that job before it's too late to do anything about it? How do I roll that into a financial system, my accounting system, such that my accounting system is complementary to the way that I both estimate and price? And then how do I take that accounting system and segue that into a business plan that I can monitor throughout the course of the year and make sure that I stay on path as the year moves along? I don't know that there is a system like that exists. I know that in theory it does. I know that there are many pieces of software that exist in the industry that tout that they can do that. But something that is simple, particularly for many of your listeners that have less than 100 men on the payroll and less than 5 million in revenues, that panacea system, I haven't found it. Most of us are using QuickBooks and most of us are using adaptations in Excel to make that happen. And I would tell you that you can manufacture for your own uses a brilliant set of documents that cover all those things that we just mentioned: estimating, pricing, tracking, and so forth. A combination of Excel and QuickBooks can easily make that happen.
Okay.
And there are books that have been written that explain that in the simplest terms and don't tout any of the major software programs that exist. And I don't want to take anything away from all of the software programs that are out there in the marketplace, because they're good. But no one has been able to encapsulate the entire picture. We're always going to be supplementing whatever software we choose to use with spreadsheets.
Right.
It's going to happen. So face that. And
makes sense.
And then make sure that if you do invest in any kind of software, that you use it, commit to it, don't delegate it. We as owners have to commit to the fact that we're going to make this piece of software work for our business. If we don't commit, it will not work. Do not delegate it to a bookkeeper. It will not work.
Yeah, I've seen that on many occasions.
Oh, yeah.
Frank, we're running out of time here, but any parting words for the audience? Any words of wisdom?
I am so enthusiastic about the opportunities that are in construction, the green industry particularly. I think that we're in great economic times. Don't believe everything that you see in the headlines. The green industry is solid. It can make your listeners significant returns on investment. And what can be better than that? I do not see rough waters in front of us. I think that certainly 2023 and 2024 being an election year, I think that we're going to be in good shape. Take it in baby steps. Is 2030 going to be a great year? I have no idea. But I can tell you that the near-term future is going to be solid. And take advantage of that. Grow your company, not necessarily in revenue, but grow it in margin, grow it in overhead control, grow it in profitability. Profitability is not a function of revenue. Profitability is a function of good management. And if we can apply good management in good times to our businesses, good things will happen.
Awesome. Thank you. Great parting words. Frank, how can my listeners get hold of you? What's the best way for them to contact?
Well, there are two things, I think. Number one, three things, actually. They can call you.
Okay. Which is fine.
But I would tell you that if your listeners wanted to get a primer on financial management, there is a text that the National Association now markets and provides the marketplace called Pricing for the Green Industry. And I would strongly suggest that if you wanted to find out about financial management and all of the things that we've kind of touched on today, that is a great primer to use. And the third way is certainly any email that comes my way will be answered by me. And my email address is frank.ross@rosspayne, ROSSPAYNE.com. And I'd love to hear from anybody that I can certainly help.
Awesome. Frank, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for everything you've done for the green industry. Really appreciate your time, all your words of wisdom. They are well received. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Hopefully that was pure, dead brilliant for you today, and you got some great takeaways for your business or your leadership role. This is Robert Clinkenbeard, and we'd love to get you and your friends to join us in our future journey. So please subscribe through the various podcast channels or visit thecommerciallandscaper.com or brucewilsoncompany.com and check out some more information there. Anyway, hopefully you all have a pure, dead, brilliant day. Cheers, everyone.